You already heard of that person who tries to lose weight, who tries to make more money, who tries to do something, right? But starts day one getting discipline or New Year's Eve resolution or whatever the fuck, and sticks around, sticks to the diet, sticks to the new regime for like 2 weeks, and then he falls back into the old habits and gives up. The reason why this happens is that these people try to change the behavior without changing the way they see, the way they look at themselves. You don't have a weight problem, you don't have a money problem, you don't have a whatever kind of fucking problem, you have an identity problem. And so the key is to look at how and who you are being, because from being, I mean, you see yourself a certain way, comes doing, acting, taking action, and from taking action consistently comes the result, which is having. Being, doing, having, right? So let's look at identity, right? What is an identity? Or actually, it's probably the same thing. So let's look at personality. What's personality? Personality derives from the Latin persona, Latin or Greek. Fact check me on that. Word persona, which literally means mask, to put on a mask, which is the term that they used when there were theater plays and the actors used to put on a mask of a certain character which had certain traits, characteristics, behavior, and tendencies. And so, if you look at that, we see that it's not really who we really are at our core. Our personality is simply an accumulation of things, of traits, of behaviors. And we believe that's us, but it's not us, it's something, it's a tool. It's a way, like the ego, right? It's a way to navigate this reality. So step number one is understanding what we are dealing with and what it really is, a personality. So step number one is understanding what we are dealing with. That's why it's important to be specific with language and to define what is a personality, what is an identity, right? Because if identity determines our actions and our action determines our results, you will agree that changing your identity is going to change your life completely. So what happens when you are doing the work? And I don't mean the grind, hustle work that you do in business. That is necessary, of course, but I don't mean that type of work. I mean the inner work, okay? Looking inside, changing your subconscious beliefs, what you believe to be true about reality, that type of work, all right? So when you do the work and you look at what you believe, you look at all the traits, right, that you've developed, you realize that none of it is real, none of it is you. They were just learned response that you learn from your parents, from school, or from trauma responses and anything like that, stuff like that, right? When you do the work, to which there are certain ways and certain frameworks to become aware of this belief and dissolve it. And by dissolve it, meaning sublimate it, like dissolve it, undo it. Not destroy it, not cover it, not replace it with something else, dissolve it, undo it. When you do that, you are literally changing the masks, the traits, the character traits, your personality, and as a result you're changing yourself, how you see yourself, and you change as a person, right? That's why, as a side note, the people who say, oh, you've changed, you're not the same anymore. No shit. Haven't you changed? Haven't you changed? If you're not changing, what are you doing with your life? You're still staying the same. And these are the people who never do the work on themselves that stay the same when they're 25 or when they're 45 or 65. They still have the same character traits because they never take the time to look at who they believe themselves to be and what they believe to be true about reality. They never look at their subconscious programming. That's why when you do this work, you change. And as you change, everything around you changes. Right? Which brings me to the point of all of this, which I'm not sure what it is, but it doesn't really matter. We're having a conversation, right? The point of all of this is that, most people, as cliche as it might sound, try to change their life, meaning to run away from something they dislike or to get to something they desire, right? It's either running away from something or trying to acquire something. Either the frustration of not having something or the fear of something, wanting to get away from something. Most people, as I said, try to change the external without realizing that if they try to act on the effect, cause and effect, right? The identity is the cause, external reality is the effect. Without changing the identity, they are simply trying to, change something externally, hoping that something inside changes. Classic, example of the guy who becomes rich in the bank account and inside is still hollow, and he tries to keep achieving something out there without never looking inside of here. It's like an identity thing, right? If you don't change the internal, which is the identity, all these things that I listed, the character traits, the subconscious programming and all this stuff, these tools to navigate this three-dimensional reality, if we don't look inside, if our view of ourselves is that I'm never good enough, so to speak, there's a gap between you and this ideal you, right? Which stays like that. This is your internal view of yourself. So let's say this is, earning 100,000 a year, and this is where you are now, okay? So, okay, you work on your business, and this is you again, and this is your goal. This is the ideal that you're trying to embody, right? You work and you're successful. You get to 100,000 a year. Now this is you at 100,000 a year, but this is still your ideal, which you haven't reached. Now the goal has moved at 250. Now you work again and grind on your business. You reach 250, but this is still the ideal that you will never reach. You're an horizon chaser, right? It's like the horizon, right? Oh, I want to get to the horizon. Then you travel there. You realize the horizon is still there because it's a fucking horizon, right? And so that's what it is. While this is acting at the effect instead of at the cause. While if you look inward and you collapse time, right, by dissolving the subconscious limiting beliefs and whatever, however the fuck you want to call it, that prevent you from being that version of yourself now, then not only everything in external reality shifts, but also inside here. Because what you're actually looking after, that's the wrong word. What you're actually looking for is not an external outcome. What you're looking for is the emotional payoff that that external outcome is gonna give you. Right? So, something to chew, eh? Wish you a great day.